Welcome to Bleachers and Speakers. I'm your host, June, and I am with my co-host, B. Foster, and our FFSN affiliates from Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. I'll let them introduce themselves. This is my favorite day of the week. We get to sit down and talk NFC North Division football. Even in the offseason, the shows are just as good as they are during the season. So we'll start off with you, Dave. You can introduce yourself and tell people where they can find you.
Hey, everybody. I'm Dave. I am the producer over at Vikings First and Skol. We do Vikings coverage, obviously. Have been doing it for a while now. Vikings First and Skol has been up just a little over a year. We are growing. We appreciate that. You can find all our podcasts over on the Fans First Sports Network feed, which comes to you via iTunes, Spotify, and whatever RSS feed you've got going for podcasts. And you can find some of our written stuff over at Fans First Sports Network if you type in NFL or click the NFL button and Minnesota. You'll find us there. And we've got a lot of stuff happening in Minneapolis right now over at Egan at the headquarters.
Pay.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Pay at the Bear Claw Podcast, also under the FFSN umbrella. You can find us at it, like Dave said, anywhere you get your podcast: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube Music, Pandora, Amazon Music. We're everywhere. You can also check us out visually on YouTube at the Frustrated Chicago Sports Fan channel. We're on Facebook as well at the Bear Claw Podcast, at the Bear Claw at Hallis Hall Podcast, and on TikTok at Chicago Bear Claw. All good places where you can interact with the show. We post clips, live shows, full shows, everything you can want to get your Bears and NFC North news updates and just general chit chat. Check us out.
And last but not certainly least, B. Foster.
Foster Child, one half of Bleachers to Speakers. You can find us everywhere at Bleachers to Speakers, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all streaming platforms. You got a lot of off-season stuff, draft coverage and free agency, breaking news and all that good stuff. So we've been pretty active as of late.
Gentlemen, how are you guys doing? Last Monday was the pretty much the opening of free agency. Wednesday was the official signing day for free agency. What's going on? What's on your mind there, Dave? How you feel about your team's free agency frenzy that started last week?
Well, we've been busy over in Egan. The Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and his scout team have signed quite a few players already. Now, we did let some go. If you were born yesterday, you heard that Kirk Cousins is now an Atlanta Falcon.
Big deal.
And the Falcons are being investigated by the NFL for tampering.
Ooh.
But over that whole deal. But Kirk Cousins is no longer with the Minnesota Vikings. He signed a 4-year, $140 million deal. 180 million, 140, I think it was. 100 of it guaranteed. For the first 2 years are completely guaranteed. There was no way the Minnesota Vikings were going to match that. So they moved on. To replace him, as of now, we've signed Sam Darnold, the former number 3 overall pick quarterback. He will be our starter to start the season, most likely. However, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah made a big trade with the Houston Texans. He got their number 23 in the first round and traded our second rounder plus something. Houston made out the deal, but we now have 2 first rounders to move up in the draft, where we fully expect to move within the top 5, maybe even within the top 3, to grab our quarterback of the future. But we're not the only ones that need a quarterback of the future.
Without further ado, Pay, how do you feel about your team's acquisition so far?
I'm gonna be a little pessimistic.
Okay.
I'm glass half full with it. You know, I fully expect these moves, the acquisition of DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Owens, Keenan Allen, and various others, Mr. Bates from Buffalo. I expect the Bears to be a better on-field product going into next season because of these acquisitions. Now, the part about being glass half full. Do I think these acquisitions were the best thing the Bears could have been doing with $80+ million of cap space and a lot of assets to move off of and gain more assets? Absolutely not. In case you haven't heard, the Bears did trade their former first-round draft pick quarterback, Justin Fields, and got back what I believe to be a less than heroic return. Let's just say that. It's for a 6 week. They traded him for a 6th-round draft pick. I vehemently disagree with any propaganda that's been coming out of Hallis Hall about well, this was a good move for the team. Maybe a good room for the locker room. A good move for the team is not debatable, in my opinion. It's you took pennies on the dollar for a talent of Justin's skill set. But outside of that, the Chicago Bears have been very active. Same with all of our other NFC counterparts. Very active. We improved our wide receiver room. We improved our secondary. Now we just got to keep striking while the iron's hot, hopefully in the draft, and shore up some other holes.
Okay. Foster, how you feel about the acquisitions? Detroit Lions.
Well, I think that we pretty much covered everything that was of question. Obviously, Jonah Jackson left, and we had a big gaping hole at guard, and we were able to come up acquire Kevin Zeitler yesterday. So that's brand new news. He went to the Pro Bowl last year. He's been very, very durable and has a very good pass rush win rate. So that proved that move is a very positive one. It wasn't necessarily something that we were, seeking out, but I think we did a good job as far as that's concerned. As far as the cornerback situation, we definitely retooled and replaced some of the guys that we let go. It's looking like we're going to have to work a little bit harder to fill out that cornerback situation because we got some legal issues with one of our guys. So I won't get into too much detail about that, but I'm glad we were able to fill some of the holes. I'm really excited about DJ Reader though. He's a defensive tackle from the Cincinnati Bengals, who's had some injury situations, but he scored very well last year. And I think he was an integral part to the Bengals being as good as they were the last few years up until last year. So overall, I think we did a solid job. We didn't have any life-changing moves, but we covered ourselves in the sense that we can now draft freely with just what's the best available player, whether it's a receiver, cornerback, edge rusher. We don't have any gaping holes at this point.
Tight end.
Yeah, right.
Oh, we're saving that for the draft. That's how we do. Right. So let me. I have a couple of things of issues with Detroit, but overall, as a whole, and I'll add to that, I think we did a lot with not breaking the bank. There were some moves that were made that wasn't on the top of my list as far as acquisitions, but they're pretty solid gets. Which leads to my question, and I'll start with you, Dave. Was there any misses? Did you have anybody you had your heart set on to be a Vikings that you feel that just didn't happen?
Well, there was Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter, I wish we'd kept, but instead we traded Danielle or didn't trade. He signed with the Houston Texans, which is good for him. Now, if you look at some of the players that we've received or we've signed so far, you would think that you'd be looking at a Facebook post that says the Vikings are in a relationship with the Texans. We signed Blake Cashman, off-ball linebacker who should start, which I have no problem with whatsoever. We signed Jonathan Grenard, gave him a 4-year contract. He's replacing Danielle Hunter at edge. Gave him a nice 4-year contract, which is, I think, going the second one that Kwesi's given out so far. So we expect good things from him. He had 12.5 sacks last year. He is more of the typical 3-4 outside linebacker than Danielle was. Danielle's a pure pass rushing edge. And though he could play some pass defense and cover somebody in the flat, that's never really been his style. I think Grenard's going to be it. We picked up a couple more players with links to the Texans. Trying to remember their exact names. We had a cornerback that we picked up that played for him, but was with Carolina last, Shaquille Griffin, he'll be fighting for a starting position, should get it, I would think. We also got Aaron Jones from the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay had pissed Aaron off, told him that last season he needed to take a pay cut, so he took a pay cut. And they probably promised him he wouldn't have that this year. Well, they told him to take another pay cut, and he told him to get bent. And, of course, where do disgruntled Packers players go once they're pissed off at the Packers? They generally go to teams in the NFC North. But, yes, there is the Jets. That's on their way to Minnesota, whether it be Brett Favre or the joke is Aaron Rodgers next year. But a lot of them come to Minnesota to play. And we have a long history of taking these guys. And Aaron Jones is going to be one of them. I think he's going to make a heck of a running back for us because he wasn't bad last year.
No.
Yes, he's 29 years old, which is technically over the death age, but he was still producing 5.5 yards per carry. And combine him with one of the young guys we have already, I think we're going to 1-2 punch on the running back side, which we need because we don't have a running game per se. I think it's going to be much improved. So I'm happy with that. As for the other people that were let go, the only two that I really cared about, I cared about Kirk Cousins because I wanted him gone. I think addition by subtraction helps the Minnesota Vikings because he is gone. The 6-year experiment is over. And then, like I said, Danielle Hunter. But we've lost a few. And we've gained a bunch. And now we're in the process of signing a bunch of guys that'll be, depth pieces. So I'm sure your teams are in that mode too. We're in the second wave of free agency right now.
Yeah.
Nothing really to shout about. But you guys signing Zeitler yesterday, I was impressed. That was somebody I wanted on my team.
Yeah, a couple of points to add to that. Aaron Jones played very good late in the season as well. So it's no signs of running out of gas. He actually was stronger at the end of the year and had a very productive year. He was looking scary the last few games and in the playoffs. So, and then I think all four of us here can relate to not picking up a Danielle Hunter. I think that was a miss for all of us. Pay, any disappointments, anybody that you on your wish list that escaped? And keep in mind, this is an hour-long show. So
evil.
So disappointments. I've got a few.
I know.
I will try to keep it towards guys that we should have drafted or should have signed that I would prefer to be signed.
Hey man, the floor is yours. Go as long as you. I'm just kidding, but go as long as you like.
So yes, do you hit on Danielle Hunter? I felt like after all of the targets that I was hoping that will enter free agency, they got the tags and they end up getting some deals. Danielle Hunter should have been the top of the Christmas list, and we let him leave the division, leave the conference altogether, and find his way down to Houston. I didn't know Houston and Minnesota was such a short trip, because it seems I don't know how he skipped Chicago and got to Houston. I flabbergasted. Maybe there was some tampering going on, but yeah,
I have no idea. It could have been in. The discussion was because of the relationship, and Houston came to Minnesota to do the big trade to give us their first. There may be a give and take, even though we didn't technically control Danielle at the time.
Trade equity, so to speak. Okay. Yeah, Ryan Poles needs some. It seems like Ryan Poles has only got trade equity with Pittsburgh at this point. I cannot wait till Pittsburgh starts paying that back after all we've done for them. Other than Danielle Hunter, Christian Wilkerson is another one, and you said something a little bit earlier, June, about Dave. You said something about guys moving from team to team within the division. I don't like how the Packers continually play in our face. We allow them to boss up on us during the season and during the off season. The gap between our two teams is not that wide. This is the perfect time to try to stop them and then create a new era of which we are the ones running the relationship. We're wearing the pants in this relationship between us two, right? The top safety, as far as like being in his prime or whatever, that was available, Xavier McKinley out of New York, he was available. I felt like that should have been a primary target for the Bears. We just cut a safety, a former Pro Bowler, Eddie Jackson. We had an opening, and we allowed him to go to Green Bay, and then we took Jonathan Owens, who Green Bay let walk out the door. I don't see how that's a plus for us, but it is what it is. We have, even though we had the number 2 rushing team in the league the last 2 seasons, we allowed our leading rusher, Justin Fields, we let him go. So we did have a need for another running back. We've had running back issues consistently, as with everyone else does. Running backs get hurt. It's what they do. We signed DeAndre Swift. You all may be familiar with him up there in Detroit. What's the knock on DeAndre Swift? Always hurt, right? So we signed him, and the best running back on the market, Josh Jacobs, ends up in Green Bay. Now, this is my biggest issue with the offseason. We can't keep allowing teams that are already demonstrated they were better than us continually get better. We have to close this gap. And if we're not going to do it by hiring a better coach, or building on certain successes we had last season, you got to do it by bringing in better players. You can't allow the better players that are available to go to the team that continually beats you year in and year out. I just, for the life of me, please give me a win here.
Foster, biggest disappointments for you?
Disappointments.
Wait, hold on. Hold that thought. We're going to get to a quick break. I just lost track of time. And then you can tell me. We'll be back in like 15 seconds. To my listeners out there, Spotify world, Apple Podcasts, you'll hear some wonderful ads. Okay, my bad, Foster. So, biggest misses or disappointments that you felt the Lions should have gotten during
I
free
would have
agency?
I would have liked for us to have addressed edge rusher a little bit stronger. I feel like if I was to grade out the Marcus Davenport signing, I would mark it as incomplete just because he didn't play most of last year. So we don't have much to go on besides, how he was in New Orleans. I know he was coached under Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell. So I trust that they brought in somebody that they have some faith in. He only had 2 sacks last game, but he also only played 2 games or around 2 games. So not a bad ratio in the few games that he did play. I was pretty high on the guy the Vikings ended up getting, the greener guy on the Texans, as well as Bryce Hall. I did a player profile on him as one of the guys that I was interested in. But one thing that I didn't talk about is that Carlton Davis did restructure his contract to save us $4 million, which I think was a very, just showed, that he's a team guy and, for the betterment of, improving the team. And that may have assisted in us being able to get the Kevin Zeitler guy, because that was the announcements kind of went hand in hand. But I'm also high on Steph Gilmore. We do need some added veteran presence at the cornerback position. The writing is kind of on the wall with his brother being here as well, and with Cam Sutton possibly not being around for the season coming forward. So that there's still an opportunity for us to make right on that situation. So still might be some moves to make, but I think that we're in a good position going into the draft regardless.
I have to agree with you as far as the Lions not pursuing aggressively or defensive end, but we kind of knew Holmes wasn't going to do so. If we really pay attention to and really took with a grain of salt what he was saying, like he wasn't going out to the market and spending a bunch of money. He just wasn't, and he didn't. Another thing was, for me, I was disappointed from the time of the franchise tags, because the 2 corners that I thought could be snagged at free agency, Darius Sneed and Johnson from the Bears, which he wound up signing an extension, and they kept him. I really like that corner for the Bears. I think he's a phenomenal talent, and I hate that he's staying in the division and staying with the Bears. I have a different stance as far as Danielle Hunter. If the Lions can't have him, get him the hell out the division.
You still in my theory.
Yeah, he doesn't have to. Hey, if the Lions can't have him and the Minnesota's not keeping him, he doesn't need to be in the go to the AFC. Just go. We don't even have to see you in the playoffs.
And he's a class act because he's always worn 99.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes down there, and of course, in Texas history, who wore 99?
Was it Watt?
Watt.
Yes.
Yeah. And
you're not getting that jersey.
And he said, no, I'm not even, well, not that he's getting the jersey. It's the numbers available. He's like, no, I'm not taking that. JJ Watt means too much to the city of Houston. I'm not taking that number, and give me 55. So you're going to see him wearing number 55. Which
He probably had
going to be different.
Probably had that number in high school or something like that. Yeah.
Probably.
That's weird.
And to be honest, he did a lot for the city of Houston as far as the tragedies that happened down there. He was frontlining a lot, along with not just playing football. It was more to it. So that was a very noble move by Danielle. So yeah, if you could give your team, and I want to go with pay first, because this is gonna be good. If you could give your team a free agent grade, now keep in mind free agency isn't over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's still people you can still moves that can be made. If you can give your team a current grade of their free agency since last week up until today, how would you grade them? Pay, we'll start with you.
Oh, this is tough. Let me think about this. So, free agency only, right? All right. So, trading away Justin was an F. So we can start there.
It doesn't have to be just free agent. All the acquisitions so far, you can add those in there if you want. So, like you just did. So that's fine.
All right. So if I think the best move we made was, I guess, signing, getting the center from LA, from the Rams. I give that a B. And I already said we have an F on our sheet, on our progress report. We got an F. We got a couple of C's. I trading for Keenan Allen. That's a B minus, C plus.
I like Keenan Allen.
Me too.
Yeah.
But he's old.
Yeah, but you ain't got to sign him. You can like him. You ain't the one that got to sign him. That's the issue there. So I mean, with all these moves that's happened, and all the individual grades, I think it averages out to about a C. Yeah, like an 81, something like that.
Okay. Dave, what's your grade?
Well, we replaced obviously some starters. Kirk Cousins is gone. Danielle Hunter's gone. We replaced both of those guys. DJ Wanham is gone, and you guys didn't pick up on him. We got Andrew Van Ginkel from the Dolphins to replace him, and I think it's going to be a good fit because, of course, he played for Flores and knows that system. So we're going to get a little bit better there. We got rid of Madison, our running back. He's now with the Raiders, and we got Aaron Jones. That's an improvement. So Sam Darnold at minimum is going to be our backup quarterback. I like that. And I like the fact that he can run the game for us until whoever we draft is ready to come in. And it's going to be interesting. I would give us, I'm not super, fantastic. I'm not going, hey, we got an A. No, we didn't do that. I would figure it, high C's, B's, somewhere in there is about where we are. And then we've got a handful of, guys that are rotational pieces at best. Jonah Williams from the Rams, defensive lineman type deal. We signed Jihad Ward, edge from the Giants today, and Camus Grugier Hill from the Panthers, another inside linebacker. These are guys that, okay, they're going to be fighting for depth, and we needed depth. So that's okay. That's a C. You getting depth guys for depth, spots, competition. I'm cool with that. Where we're probably hurting a little bit is offensive line. We still need a left guard. I would love to improve at center. And I do believe Pay did there, but we did not. Now, we did get Mr. Freeney from the Bears, which should be interesting. He will be competing on that offensive line, both at guard, and he can play center if he has to. So it's interesting. And he's an interesting cat. Still wearing a mullet. He's going to be fun to watch when camp starts, and I get to look at the big round bellies pushing against each other again. So, but I give us a, high C, low B, mid B, max.
Okay. GM Foster Holmes, how do you grade your the Lions acquisitions?
I got us at around a B minus. I'm pretty high on the DJ Reader and Zeitler acquisitions. Obviously, Zeitler's a little bit older, so he's more of kind of a stopgap guy while we figure out, who else, we can draft in the later rounds or whatever. The Davenport one kind of brings down the overall. To reiterate, I like the fact that, Carlton Davis and Amik Robertson are guys that are coming off iffy years and they come in there with something to prove. But I think you can definitely boost up the grade a little bit with the restructuring of the Carlton Davis deal and the fact that they're short-term deals. These aren't deals that can possibly burn us years and years down the line. it's just more of a fill in the holes, improve, and make another heavy push while leaving some leeway for St. Brown, Goff, Sewell, some of the long-term guys to be able to get their money. And of course, this doesn't have to do with free agency, but we extended Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell as well. So things are looking pretty good for the long term and the short term for us. I said B- though, just to round it up.
I'm go ahead, Pay. I'm sorry.
I'm so happy you all extended Man Campbell. So happy.
Okay, I don't know how I feel about that, but
I thought it was a good move too.
Yeah, I like it because one, he's entertaining. Before you all had the season you had last year, I was like, man, I hope they let it just breathe a little bit, extend them out, let him finish his contract because I want to see the vision. I want to see everything come to fruition. And luckily, you all hit right in time. He's good for TV. I love it. I love it.
Piggybacking off what Foster said, I personally am somewhere in the ballpark of the same grade, but mine is at a C+. And it got and I will say it got to a C+ with DJ Reader and Zeitler. Now it wasn't at a Z. Yeah, it was below that. And the reason being is this guy Holmes, the signing of the injured people, he does not discriminate. He will, if you're hurt, if you can be on life support. He will sign you if he feels like there's a chance you can play. Carlton Davis, he was a little banged up last year.
Yeah.
That didn't affect him.
This is football, though. These guys are gonna have.
Yeah, but it was a lot of healthy corners out there that you could have went after. Davenport, you know what I'm saying? Those were your first acquisition. So in my mind, this is where my mind is like, okay. You still have to draft at those positions because
gotta draft somewhere.
So C+, but hey, it's trending up because of the last two acquisitions. So
I played around with the C+ area, but I like the.
Yeah, I'm not far. You're not far off from what I'm saying.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. My reasoning might be different, but yeah,
if Davenport can stay healthy for you guys, you've got a heck of a edge rusher there. He's good. It's just the health issue with him.
Yeah. I mean, we know we don't play with the ifs. we'll see. The judge, the jury's still out on that. We'll see. Another thing is question I have for you, and we'll start again with Pay. We know that the free agency has an influence on who you're going to draft. Now, we already know who the Bears are going to draft first.
Do we know?
Okay. Well, this makes it even a better question. The acquisitions that happened since last week, has that determined or give you a feeling of how you're going to draft and what you're going to draft on April 25th?
I think it's more so, well, it should be a foregone conclusion of who the Bears are taking at 1. Now, it's because Ryan Poles has been a little he's been a question mark, right? It's been you don't know what he's got going on. He's cooking in silence. So I just want to put that out there. We don't know Caleb Williams is going to be the number one guy taken. He might still trade down and draft JJ McCarthy for all I know, which would be a very interesting live show.
Yes. We're going to fire up the cameras if something like that happens that day.
But at number 9,
taking Drake May.
Oh, Yeah, because Chicago loves North Carolina quarterbacks with the number 10.
Trubisky.
Yeah. That's definitely got a great track record in Chicago. But at number 9, we've I think if the mocks hold out to be true, and the scouts at Hallis Hall agree, we might be taking an edge, which would make me very happy. We might be getting either Verse or the other young gentleman, and I'll be happy with that. That will push my offseason grade higher tremendously.
Dave, how's your draft going since the in your mind, your thoughts? How's the draft going since the acquisition? What direction are you going the first round?
Since the Texans traded their first round pick to us,
Yeah, you got
that gives us 2 in the first round.
A lot of stuff to
We're moving up.